Dumelang, Tsibinki. Welcome to another fire episode of the Mobile School Podcast, man. Remember, don't like, don't share, don't distribute, don't discuss there in the comment sections. No, nobody cares, bruh. Today I just wanted to talk about platforms. And the reason I want to talk about platforms is that there's a rise in podcasts in South Africa as more and more people are starting to realize that there's a lot of money that can be made in podcasting. And that's a story about South Africa and a lot of industries. Like if rappers are making more money, more people want to be rappers. Piano is making more money, more people want to be piano artists. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like we always need to go where the money is. But I feel like when it comes to podcasts, the market has become saturated, like saturated to a point where everybody's trying to do the same thing, which is to just give us highlights of what happened on Twitter, the scandals. Like all the black podcasts are becoming swash, except for the David Mashabela one, which interviews like people who are in music and the art who we have forgotten about and we should give more respect to. But yeah, like we have become a country that produces podcasters that are not clued up on anything except Ngozi, which is quite embarrassing because as black people we're dealing with so much. Like we're dealing with unemployment, we're dealing with mental health, we're dealing with GBV, we're dealing with single parent household, we're dealing with having children that we cannot afford to raise because of situations that are happening. And the first thing we think is like, okay, let's invest in mics and just talk too much for more than 2 hours about what happened on Twitter. Like, that's all we've become. But I feel like there's people like Nkululeko and he has like a nice channel that focuses on sport. That's fine, that's a different sphere. And he's getting on Nkululeko and culture, which is now focusing on like the same gossip thing that everybody talks about. And that's okay. That's his thing. He's made his money already. He's mentioned it that hey, Wallspets bet bought 51% of my company. But I feel like we should focus on creating content that's helping us. Like when I started this Fire podcast, the idea was to focus on technology, artificial intelligence, and help people in understanding that hey, the changes that are being made when it comes to technology, whether it's shadow banning, whether it's like a new phone that records you without you switching the camera on because you downloaded a certain app, all this information I just wanted to share with people so that we can prepare ourselves. Like, my issues with like big tech companies and them owning so much content and being able to ban certain individuals because of their policies and their politics and their opinions if they don't go hand in hand with certain people in that particular company. And I've said, let's look into companies like China, how they own their social media and they control it. At the same time, this is the same country that doesn't allow the Tiananmen Square information to be put out there. So we need to keep a balance when it comes to it. Big up to the new president of Kenya, another one who's just not going to do anything. Like as soon as we understand that politicians are not going to save us as young Africans, the sooner the better. Like nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And we start saving ourselves by having conversations that are hard to have instead of bashing each other on Twitter. Like, yo, bruh, we even have like Twitter wars between countries, and you're like, wait, what? You guys are shitting on each other about who's poorer? Like, what type of nonsense is that? Start a podcast if you want to start a podcast about music. Don't start a podcast interviewing musicians. Start a podcast talking about distribution. Remember, we're also going to launch PlayPay, which is an amazing initiative where if somebody plays your song as a producer, you can charge them. You can have people record and we send them an invoice. We handle that, you get like 20% of that. We might make it 10% depending on how much it will cost us to just chase after them. But also if you have music, you send it to us and we distribute it to the people that want to download it through a QR code and they get charged via their airtime. Music distribution. the music art is dying a slow death because of digital uh, DSPs, digital streaming platforms like your Spotify, your Amazon Music, your Apple Music. All those things are killing music. It's not a coincidence that all the albums that came out already, we are not talking about Beyonce who came out, Kendrick came out, Drake came out, uh, that White Iverson, Malone, Post Malone came out. All the biggest artists in the world came out, especially in hip hop. So hip hop is dead, bruh. Let's just be honest. Like nobody cares about your jewelry. Nobody cares about how many motherfuckers you shot. We're not going there. And it's said that instead of moving somewhere else, we're focusing on nonsense. And I'm not going to say, oh, but look at all these Indian people who are on YouTube. They're talking about apps. They're talking about how to make this, how to fix this, how to create an app that does this and that. And that's why they dominating. They dominate all over the world. Most of the CEOs are becoming Indian. And not because they are brown. This has no relation to like your POC, politics, diversity. No, they all deserve to be there. It's called meritocracy. And in if we're gonna be captains of industries, black, Chinese, Indian, all the POCs that you can add in there, we need to be equipped with skill, with knowledge, and everything else that comes with it, so that nobody questions you being there. So it's very important that we do not start more podcasts that talk about politics in music, in Twitter, twas. Like, no, guys, you can't spend 2 hours of your day talking about twas. No, we need to grow up. So we've complained a lot about radio. There's so many people we can interview. Like if you have a podcast idea, interview nurses to talk about some of the biggest challenges they face, like some of the weirdest things they've seen. That's content. Like you can literally come up with any topic of your choice. Shoes. Interview people about shoes. Like, yo, how are these shoes made? What can we do to introduce like a shoe that's connected to an app that measures your weight, with Bluetooth that can also just count your steps, that can count your heart rate. Like we need to come up with those things. It can't just be like, oh, these two guys who own Batu and Drip are making a lot of money, so let's make a shoe as well. Come up with something new, guys. Everybody can make a shoe. Just go on websites in China and just send them your logo. They'll deliver you your shoes. But that's not how we should go about it. We need to add technology in everything that we're doing. Tech is going to save us, not politicians, not TWAS. Tech. Artificial intelligence is taking over. Like automation. Also, on the issue of tech taking over, middle management, fuck off. We are not going back to the offices. Nobody's going back. Like, fuck your dreams of having a corner office and having people come report to you. They can fucking send you a WhatsApp or an email. Like, we don't need you to pretend like you're busy or you're running shit. If production is not going down because of people working from home, then shut the fuck up. And also, very importantly, remember, this is not a podcast. I'm not a podcaster. I'm an independent TED Talk. Abash.